The first-class cabin of Aerolink Airways Flight 847 was designed to radiate calm. Soft LED lighting glowed from overhead panels, illuminating rows of wide leather seats arranged with generous spacing. The faint aroma of citrus cleaner still lingered from pre-boarding service, mingling with the sharper notes of champagne poured into crystal flutes. Most passengers murmured in low, cultured tones, their conversations about business meetings, golf trips, or weekend getaways blending into the hum of the engines idling outside. That calm cracked the moment a baby began to cry. Monica Carter, a 32-year-old mother traveling alone, shifted uncomfortably in seat 2A. Her 6-month-old daughter, Ella, squirmed in her arms, tiny fists flailing. Ella's cries pierced the cabin, raw and unrelenting, as her senses struggled against the noise and pressure of boarding. Monica rocked her gently, whispering soothing words. "It's okay, baby girl. Mama's here." Just a little longer, instead of sympathy, she felt stares. 2 rows back, Richard Collins, a middle-aged businessman in a sharp grey suit, muttered audibly, "God, not this." "I have a connection to make." Across the aisle, Eleanor Price, an elderly woman with pearls strung tightly at her neck, pursed her lips and clutched her handbag as though offended by sound itself. And near the bulkhead, college sophomore Chloe Anderson tilted her phone upward, her TikTok stream already live, whispering to her audience, "Guys, a baby's already losing it up here in first class." This is going to be a long flight, Monica tried not to notice. She had dealt with the disapproving looks of strangers before, on buses, in restaurants, even in grocery store aisles. But here, surrounded by passengers who had paid thousands for their seats, the judgment felt heavier, sharper. She focused on Ella, patting her back in slow rhythm. The measured calm broke when Rebecca Hayes, the lead flight attendant, appeared. Rebecca's uniform was pristine, her navy skirt pressed into perfect pleats, her winged pin polished to a mirror shine. Her dark hair was coiled into a French twist, not a strand out of place. She carried herself with the kind of authority that was half learned, half invented, the kind that thrived when an audience was watching. Rebecca stopped beside Monica's row, her eyes narrowing at the crying infant. Her voice cut through the cabin. "Control your screaming, child, or I'll have security remove you both from this aircraft immediately." The words slammed into Monica like a cold wave. Before she could form a reply, Rebecca's hand swung. The crack of palm against cheek echoed through first class. Monica gasped, the sting blooming across her skin, but her arms instinctively tightened around Ella to shield her. Ella's cries spiked louder at the sudden violence. Gasps rippled across the cabin, followed almost instantly by the glow of recording phones. Yet, instead of outrage, approving whispers rose. "Finally, someone with backbone," Eleanor whispered with satisfaction. "Thank God someone's maintaining standards," Richard muttered, nodding as if a line had been drawn to protect civilized travel. Monica's cheek burned, but her eyes stayed steady. She rocked Ella gently, her lips brushing the baby's hair. She would not cry. She would not plead. Rebecca adjusted her scarf, straightened her spine, and glanced deliberately at the raised phones. She raised her voice for the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. Some people simply don't understand proper travel etiquette." A murmur of agreement passed through the passengers. The businessman gave a satisfied grunt. Eleanor lifted her chin higher. Even Chloe's TikTok audience, now climbing past 2,000 live viewers, typed approving comments. Greater than, "Finally, someone disciplining bad parents." "She doesn't belong in first class anyway." Greater than, "Flight attendant is a hero." Monica sat silently, focusing on tucking Ella's blanket around her daughter's small fists. Her boarding pass, with "Mrs. M. Carter, Gold Elite," rested visible on her lap, but Rebecca hadn't bothered to look. Rebecca, fueled by the nods and murmurs, reached for her radio. "Captain Turner, we have a code yellow in first class. Disruptive passenger with infant, refusing to comply with crew instructions." The radio crackled. Captain Michael Turner's calm voice filled the silence. "Copy that, Rebecca. How do you want to proceed? Rebecca's lips curled slightly as she looked at Monica. Recommend immediate removal before departure. She's already delayed us 8 minutes. Monica's phone buzzed in her lap. She risked a glance at the glowing screen. 14 minutes until departure. Beneath the clock. Corporate legal merger announcement scheduled for 2 p.m. EST. All systems ready. Her chest tightened, but she quickly locked the phone before Rebecca, or Chloe's camera, could catch more. Excuse me, Monica said softly, her voice trembling but steady enough to carry. My ticket shows seat 2A. I paid for this seat. I deserve... Rebecca barked a laugh, sharp and cutting. Honey, I don't care what scam you pulled to get that ticket. People like you always try to sneak into places you don't belong. Not on my flight. Eleanor leaned forward. In my day, mothers knew how to travel with dignity. This is shameful, Richard muttered. Entitled. Absolutely entitled. Phones tilted closer. Chloe whispered to her stream, Guys, the flight attendant literally just slapped her. This is crazy. Her viewer count jumped past 9,000. But the comments still skewed against Monica. Greater than kick her off already. Greater than... I'd lose my mind if I was on that flight. She's holding everyone up, Rebecca, now in full performance mode, addressed the cabin again. Ma'am, if you can't manage your child, I have every right to request your removal from this aircraft. Airline policy is very clear about disruptive passengers. Monica bent into her diaper bag, pulling out a bottle of formula for Ella. As she did, a flash of platinum metal gleamed between the baby's wipes and pacifiers. The design was unusual, not like standard frequent flyer cards. She quickly pushed it back down, but not before Richard squinted, frowning at the glint. Rebecca noticed the movement too. Her eyes narrowed. Who exactly do you think you're calling? She sneered. Your baby's father isn't going to save you from federal aviation law. A few passengers chuckled darkly. Chloe's livestream ticked past 12,000 viewers. Monica kissed Ella's forehead, whispering, Shh, baby girl. She kept her composure, though every nerve in her body screamed to shout back, to defend herself. But she didn't. Her silence was heavier than any argument. Rebecca lifted her radio again. Captain, passenger remains non-compliant. Requesting immediate ground security assistance, phones clicked. Murmurs swelled. Eleanor shook her head with disappointment. Richard sighed loudly. Chloe whispered into her phone. This is going to blow up. I swear Monica looked up, her voice calm but unyielding. Ma'am, I understand you believe you're following protocol, but I suggest verifying my passenger status before taking irreversible action. Rebecca scoffed, loud and theatrical. The only thing irreversible here is your behavior. You think wearing a nice outfit and flashing a fake card means you can disrupt an entire flight? Think again. Gasps and whispers spread. Chloe's livestream surged, 15,000, 18,000, climbing. Comments scrolled in a blur. Rebecca stepped closer, folding her arms. Security will be here in 10 minutes, and then this will be over. The cabin buzzed like a hive. Phones hovered, passengers whispered, and Monica sat still, rocking Ella gently, her calmness unsettling even those who had condemned her. She pressed her lips to her daughter's hair and whispered words only Ella could hear. And though the crowd believed they had already judged and sentenced her, Monica's silence carried an unspoken promise. The real story hadn't even started yet. The hush that followed Rebecca Hayes' slap was deceptive. On the surface, the cabin looked frozen, passengers staring wide-eyed. But beneath that quiet hung a dangerous electricity, one that hummed in the lenses of raised smartphones and in the quickening pulse of people who knew they were about to watch a scandal ignite in real time. Monica Carter adjusted Ella against her shoulder. The baby whimpered softly now, still upset but less frantic, soothed by the rhythm of her mother's steady heartbeat. Monica whispered, "It's okay, sweet girl," though her own cheek burned red from the sting. She would not give them what they wanted. A scene, a scream, a meltdown to justify their judgment. Across the aisle, Chloe Anderson, the college sophomore, gripped her phone like it was treasure. She had gone live on TikTok the moment she saw Rebecca's hand rise, and her audience had ballooned faster than she could read the comments. "Y'all," she whispered into her mic, her voice bubbling with adrenaline. "This flight attendant just slapped a mom holding a baby. I can't even write now." Her viewer count jumped. 5,000, 7,200, 9,800. Comments cascaded, greater than, "Finally, someone putting parents in their place." Greater than, "Entitled mom vibes." Greater than, "Kick her off already." That flight attendant is a legend. A smaller current of dissent threaded in. Greater than, "Hold up, she slapped her. That's assault." Why is the mom so calm, though? Weird. But those comments drowned in the tide of vitriol. Rebecca noticed the glow of Chloe's phone and straightened, tilting her chin slightly so the cabin light struck her silver pin. She knew how to perform, and the cameras only emboldened her. "Captain Turner," she said into her radio, her voice loud enough to carry to every corner of the cabin. "Passenger remains disruptive. I recommend immediate removal before further delay." The businessman in grey, Richard Collins, folded his newspaper and grumbled, "About time. I've got a deal to close, and we're sitting here babysitting." From her seat, Eleanor Price sniffed dramatically, her pearls rattling faintly as she shook her head. Travel has changed so much. Standards have simply collapsed. Chloe's camera caught them both, amplifying their disdain to tens of thousands of strangers online. Monica lifted her chin, speaking softly but clearly. "My ticket is valid. Seat 2A, first class. I have the right to be here." Rebecca's laugh cracked through the air like glass. "Please, people like you always find some scam. I know every trick. You don't belong here, sweetheart." Phones tilted closer. Chloe gasped theatrically for her audience. "Oh my God, y'all, she's calling her out. This is insane." Monica bent into her diaper bag, pulling out Ella's formula bottle. As she did, a sliver of platinum metal glinted between diapers and wipes. She tucked it back quickly, but not before. Richard squinted, narrowing his eyes at the unusual design. It looked nothing like a standard loyalty card. Rebecca's gaze sharpened. "What was that? Trying to flash a fake pass? Listen, honey. Your baby's daddy isn't going to save you from federal aviation law." The cruel laughter of several passengers followed, and Monica felt the weight of humiliation pressing harder than the slap. She pressed a kiss to Ella's head, whispering, "We're okay," though her throat tightened with every word. Chloe's viewer count surged past 15,000. Her comments scrolled so fast she couldn't read them all. Greater than, "LOL, she thinks she's special." Greater than, "Throw her out already." Greater than, "Flight attendant is GOAT." But a few contrarian voices pushed through. Greater than, "Why is this flight attendant so aggressive?" The mom looks way too calm. Something's up. Meanwhile, near the window, a man in his 40s opened his laptop. His name tag read, Aaron Mitchell, a mid-level aviation analyst. He began typing furiously into an industry forum. First-hand account. Passenger struck by crew. Infant present. No escalation from passenger. Discrimination likely. Posting for documentation. He hit publish, and within minutes, his post was being shared among pilots, attendants, and airline insiders. But inside the cabin, the performance continued. Rebecca turned again to her audience, gesturing toward Monica with sharp precision. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay. Unfortunately, some people don't respect travel etiquette. Security will arrive shortly to resolve this." Eleanor nodded approvingly. Richard muttered, "About time." Chloe whispered, "She's savage." This is going viral, as her viewer count climbed past 20,000. Monica stayed still, rocking Ella gently. The baby's cries had quieted to little hiccups, her tiny hand curled around her mother's necklace. Monica stroked her daughter's cheek with a thumb, her eyes calm, almost unnervingly calm. She whispered, just loud enough for the closest cameras to catch, "Ma'am, I suggest you confirm my status before making a mistake you cannot undo." Rebecca rolled her eyes dramatically. "The only mistake here is that you thought you could sit here and disrupt everyone else." "Not today." Chloe's phone buzzed with notifications. She grinned at the flood of comments. "Y'all, this is trending already. We're at 23,000 live. Everyone's watching this in real time." Rebecca smirked, fueled by the attention. 10 minutes until security arrives," she announced, hands on her hips. "And then this will be finished." The cabin buzzed with whispered excitement, passengers leaning forward as if awaiting the final act of a drama. Phones hovered, lenses hungry for more. And in seat 2A, Monica kissed Ella's forehead again, her calm composure more unsettling than any scream could have been. She knew something they didn't. And though the passengers believed they were watching the end of a scene, the truth was this: the real story was only just beginning. The first-class cabin felt like a stage. The slap had been the opening act, the viral cameras the second, and now the crowd waited for the next escalation, their phones held high like lighters at a concert. Every passenger seemed to lean forward, faces taut with anticipation. They weren't just travelers anymore. They were spectators, and the drama unfolding in seat 2A belonged to them as much as it did to the woman at its center. Monica Carter. Rocked Ella gently against her chest. The baby had quieted somewhat, her tiny fists curling against the fabric of Monica's blouse. But the hush carried no peace. It was brittle, full of the cabin's collective judgment. Monica pressed her cheek to Ella's hair, inhaling the faint scent of powder and milk, trying to anchor herself. Her own cheek still burned from Rebecca's slap, the skin hot and raw. Yet she remained unnervingly calm, her dark eyes steady, her silence sharper than any scream. At the front of the cabin, the curtain parted with a heavy rustle. Captain Michael Turner entered, his crisp uniform immaculate, his gold stripes glinting under the overhead lights. At his side walked two men in plain clothes, but anyone who knew what to look for could spot them instantly. Federal air marshals. Their postures were too deliberate, their gazes too sharp, their belts heavy with discreet bulges that were not cell phones. The energy in the cabin shifted. Whispers rose. Phones tilted higher. Chloe Anderson, the college student live streaming, whispered breathlessly into her mic. "Oh my God, you guys, the captain's here. With air marshals, this is getting serious." Her viewership shot upward, 27,000, 31,000, 34,500. Her comments now an unstoppable torrent. "They're about to drag her off." Greater than "Bye Felicia, don't mess with flight attendants." Greater than "Hope she's banned from flying forever." Wait, why is she still so calm? Captain Turner stopped beside Rebecca Hayes, the flight attendant who had initiated the confrontation. His gaze swept the cabin with practiced authority. He had spent 20 years flying for Airline and knew that a captain's presence was meant to project control, to reassert order. Passengers trusted the stripes, and he wore them like armor. "What's the situation, Rebecca?" Turner's voice carried the weight of command. Rebecca straightened, her cheeks flushed with self-righteous energy. She gestured toward Monica with sharp precision. "This passenger has been disruptive since boarding." Screaming infant, refusal to comply with instructions, argumentative about deplaning. She's delaying departure for everyone. Turner's gaze fell on Monica. He saw what he expected to see. A young black mother with a child in arms, sitting in first class where he assumed she didn't belong. His brain supplied the narrative before he even thought about it. Probably upgraded with points. Probably entitled. Probably making a scene. His jaw tightened. "Ma'am, I'm Captain Turner. Federal aviation regulations require compliance with crew instructions. You'll need to gather your belongings and deplane immediately." Phones buzzed as Chloe's stream hit 40,000 live viewers. Her whispers grew more dramatic. The captain just told her to get off. This is insane. Y'all, she's going to get dragged out. Monica shifted Ella in her arms, patting her back gently. She looked up at Turner, her voice calm and quiet. 8 minutes until departure, she murmured. almost to herself. Turner frowned. 8 minutes until what? Whatever schedule you think you're on, it doesn't override aviation safety protocols. Behind him, one of the marshals, Agent Rodriguez, studied Monica closely. His instincts had been honed over years of de-escalating situations at 30,000 feet. Something about Monica's composure unsettled him. Disruptive passengers usually radiated agitation, raised voices, wild gestures, frantic denial. This woman? She was too calm, controlled, almost waiting. Rebecca interjected quickly, eager to reclaim the spotlight. "Captain, she's been argumentative and is refusing to comply. I've requested ground security to remove her." "Good," Turner said briskly. He glanced at the marshals. "Let's escort her now, before this escalates further." Agent Rodriguez exchanged a glance with his partner, Agent Miller. Neither moved yet. Rodriguez took a cautious step forward, his hand hovering near, but not touching, the concealed holster under his blazer. His voice was steady, professional. "Ma'am, I'm asking you to come with us voluntarily. Please gather your things." Monica's response was measured, almost eerie in its calmness. "I need exactly 5 more minutes to resolve this situation." Gasps rippled through the cabin. Passengers craned their necks, muttering. Phones recorded every word, every gesture. Turner's jaw tightened. "You need 0 minutes. This is a federal aircraft under my command, and you are creating a safety hazard. Officers, remove her immediately." Chloe's voice shook with excitement as she whispered into her stream. "Oh my God, she just refused again. They're about to take her off. 45,000 people are watching this live. This is insane." Rebecca's smile widened. She folded her arms, radiating triumph. "This is exactly why we have security protocols. Some people think they can do whatever they want." Applause broke out, actual applause, from Richard Collins, the businessman in grey. About time someone held people accountable. Eleanor Price nodded, her pearls catching the light as she declared loudly, "This is shameful. Absolutely shameful." Phones tilted closer. Instagram lives launched, Facebook streams pinged, hashtags began to trend in real time. Flight drama, Airline incident, shock bad parent. Agent Rodriguez hesitated, his instincts screaming that something didn't fit. He looked at Monica again. No panic. No resistance. Just calm defiance. "Ma'am, if you have some kind of legitimate concern or documentation, now would be the time to show it." Turner snapped, his voice sharp with irritation. "Rodriguez, we don't negotiate with disruptive passengers. Remove her now." The marshals exchanged another glance. Protocol dictated obedience to the captain's orders, but something about this felt off. Still, they moved closer. Monica kissed Ella's forehead softly. Then she lifted her gaze, her eyes locking with Rebecca's smug face. And in a voice quiet but clear, she said, 3 minutes. The words sent a shiver down Rodriguez's spine. He didn't know why. He only knew this woman wasn't bluffing. The cabin buzzed like a hive. Phones angled higher. Chloe's stream hit 50,000 live viewers. Across the nation, strangers on couches, in coffee shops, and at office desks were glued to their screens. Everyone thought they were about to witness a passenger's removal. No one realized they were minutes away from witnessing history. Phones hovered in the air like vultures circling a battlefield. The passengers had already written their version of the story. An entitled mother, a crying baby, a brave flight attendant, a no-nonsense captain. They believed they were minutes away from watching Monica Carter dragged off in disgrace. The cabin buzzed with anticipation, a theater audience waiting for the curtain to fall. But Monica wasn't panicking. She wasn't pleading. She wasn't even arguing. She sat in seat 2A, gently rocking Ella, her cheek still flushed from Rebecca's slap, her eyes calm and steady. When she looked at the captain and the marshals, there was no fear in her expression. There was only patience. 2 minutes, she thought. Captain Michael Turner checked his watch, irritation etched deep into his face. "That's enough," he barked. "Officers, proceed with removal." Now the marshals stepped forward. Agent Rodriguez's instincts screamed caution, but protocol bound his steps. He approached slowly, his hand close to his belt. The tension was suffocating. Passengers leaned in, their phones quivering with the promise of viral content. Rebecca Hayes stood slightly behind the captain, her arms folded smugly. She could almost taste the triumph. This was her moment, the proof that she kept order in first class, that she was the kind of flight attendant who didn't tolerate chaos. She imagined the praise from her supervisors, the approving nods from her peers. Monica kissed Ella's forehead and whispered, "Almost time, baby." Then, with deliberate calm, she reached into her bag. The marshals stiffened, hands twitching toward their holsters. "Ma'am, slowly," Rodriguez warned. But Monica wasn't reaching for a weapon. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen once, and placed it on speaker. The ringing filled the cabin for half a beat before a deep male voice answered instantly. "Hi, sweetheart," Monica said softly, her voice clear enough for every recording phone to capture. "I'm having some trouble on your airline." The voice that replied froze Captain Turner in place. "Which aircraft, Monica?" "I'll handle this personally." Turner's stomach dropped. He knew that voice. Every captain at Airline Airways knew that voice. It belonged to the man who signed their paychecks, the man whose word carried the weight of the entire company. David Carter, CEO of Airline Airways. Gasps erupted through the cabin. Phones trembled in hands, suddenly unsure. Rebecca's smirk faltered, her face draining of color. Monica's response was gentle, almost conversational. "Flight 847, first class. The crew is being creative with customer service." The silence that followed was broken only by Ella's soft coo and the hum of ground equipment outside. Then David's voice thundered through the speaker, cold and commanding. "This is David Carter, Chief Executive Officer of Airline Airways. Everyone on that aircraft needs to step back from my wife immediately." The reaction was instant. The marshals froze. Rodriguez lowered his hands, backing away slowly as though she'd become radioactive. Passengers who had been jeering moments before sank into their seats, faces pale. Eleanor Price clutched her pearls so tightly the strand creaked. Richard Collins's mouth hung open, his phone trembling as his live feed flooded with comments. Greater than, "Wait, she's the CEO's wife?" Greater than, "Plot twist of the century?" "That flight attendant is done." Greater than, "Oh my God, I was siding with the wrong person." Rebecca staggered back, her mouth opening and closing without sound. This has to be a joke," she stammered. She's just a passenger with a screaming baby." David's voice cut her down instantly. "Miss Hayes, you just physically assaulted my wife. On camera, in front of 50,000 live viewers. I'll be reviewing this incident personally. And I do mean personally." The cabin erupted with murmurs. Chloe Anderson's live stream had exploded past 60,000 viewers, her comments section moving so fast it blurred into nonsense. She whispered, stunned, "Y'all, I can't even... She's married to the CEO. This is insane." Captain Turner's authority crumbled in real time. He staggered back a step, his throat dry. "Mr. Carter, sir, there's been a misunderstanding. We thought..." "A misunderstanding?" David's voice was ice. "I am watching the live stream right now. 50,000 people just witnessed my wife being slapped by your crew. 50,000. And counting phones shook as passengers realized they hadn't just recorded a mother being humiliated. They had recorded the public assault of the CEO's wife. Every cruel comment, every approving nod, every smirk, immortalized online. Monica sat quietly, rocking Ella, her calm composure unchanged. She finally looked up at Rebecca, whose face had gone white as paper. "I suggested you verify my status before taking irreversible action," Monica said softly. Rebecca's knees nearly buckled. David's voice thundered again, this time filling the cabin with terrifying clarity. "Captain Turner, Miss Hayes, you are both suspended effective immediately. This aircraft will not depart until federal investigators board. Do you understand me?" Turner swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." Rebecca shook her head in disbelief, whispering, "This can't be happening." But it was. Every phone recorded her unraveling. Every camera captured the downfall. Monica kissed Ella's head again and whispered, "It's over now, baby." And for the first time since the slap, the cabin was truly silent. Not with judgment, not with anticipation, but with awe. They had come to witness humiliation. Instead, they had witnessed power. Quiet, calm, devastating power. The wrong woman had been slapped, and the world was watching. The silence that followed David Carter's declaration weighed heavier than the engines outside. 180 passengers, once buzzing with judgment, sat frozen. Phones trembled in guilty hands. The marshals, who only moments ago prepared to drag Monica from her seat, now stepped back as though she was surrounded by an invisible shield. Rebecca Hayes staggered against the galley wall, her face drained of color. The smugness that had carried her through the performance evaporated. She whispered hoarsely, "This can't be happening." But the words fell flat against the reality of David's booming voice still echoing through the speaker. "Captain Turner." "Miss Hayes," the CEO's tone was deadly calm. "You are both suspended effective immediately. This aircraft will remain grounded until federal investigators arrive." Passengers shifted uneasily, realizing they were no longer just witnesses. They were accomplices. Their approving nods, their cruel comments, their applause. All of it had been recorded, streamed, immortalized. Chloe Anderson's TikTok live count had soared past 65,000 viewers. Her comments a storm of disbelief and reversal. "She's the CEO's wife? OMG, greater than plot twist of the century. That flight attendant is done. Greater than, I feel sick for siding with the wrong person." Chloe's voice shook as she whispered to her audience, "Y'all, I don't even know what to say. This is history." David's voice returned, colder than before. "I am activating an emergency board call. Every Aerolink executive is watching this cabin right now." Monica, calm as ever, reached into her bag and withdrew a platinum card embossed with gold lettering. She held it up for the cameras still filming. Across the top were the words, "First Family, Aerolink Airways." The gasp that rippled through the cabin was almost physical. Eleanor Price's hand shot to her mouth, her pearls rattling as she muttered, "Dear God." Richard Collins fumbled with his phone, suddenly desperate to delete his live stream, but screenshots were already spreading across Twitter. The cabin speakers crackled again, and a new image appeared, this time from Monica's phone, projected into the cabin via video call. A boardroom full of executives, lawyers, and federal liaisons stared out from the screen. Suits, ties, grim faces. The leadership of Aerolink Airways had been summoned, and they were watching everything. David Carter appeared at the center of the frame, flanked by a legal counsel. His voice was steady, but fury lurked beneath the surface. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said to the board and to the passengers simultaneously, "what you just witnessed is not an isolated incident. This is systemic, and today it ends." Rebecca shook her head violently, eyes wide with panic. "Mr. Carter, sir, I was only enforcing safety protocols." "I thought—" David cut her off like a blade. "Show me the regulation, Miss Hayes. Show me the policy that authorizes you to slap a mother holding an infant." His words echoed like a gavel strike. Rebecca's lips moved, but no sound came. Captain Turner attempted damage control, his voice cracking. "Sir, emotions were high. Mistakes were made. Surely we can handle this through internal channels." "Internal channels?" David's laugh was cold. "Captain, this is being live-streamed to 70,000 people. The Department of Transportation and the FAA are already watching. Do you think this ends quietly?" The business blogger from Seat 3C hammered at his keyboard, his aviation forum post exploding with shares. The headline read, "Breaking. Aerolink crew assaults, CEO's wife. Federal investigation underway. Notifications chimed as replies poured in from industry insiders. One of the federal investigators on the call, Sarah Carter, spoke up. Preliminary review indicates violations of CFR Title 14, Section 121.580, interference with passenger safety and unlawful crew conduct. This is federal. David nodded grimly. Thank you, investigator. To my board, you've buried discrimination complaints before. 17 in the past 5 years, settled quietly. Not anymore. The weight of his words crushed the cabin. Passengers realized they weren't just on a delayed flight. They were part of a corporate reckoning. Rebecca clutched the galley rail, whispering desperately, "Please, I have a family, a mortgage. I made a mistake." Monica finally spoke, her voice gentle but resolute. "You made a choice, and choices have consequences." Phones captured every word. Chloe's stream rocketed to 72,000 live viewers, comments exploding. "I can't believe this is real. She's a queen, calm under fire." This flight attendant's career is over. Greater than history is happening right now. David's gaze burned through the camera. Effective immediately, Airlink Airways will adopt a family protection protocol. Any crew member who lays a hand on a passenger without direct safety justification will be terminated on the spot and face federal charges. Every crew interaction will be recorded and reviewed by federal oversight. This company will lead the industry in reform, or it will not exist. In the silence that followed, Ella let out a small, innocent laugh, her baby voice carrying through the tense air. It was a sound so pure, so untainted, that it cut through the storm like sunlight. Passengers blinked, some with shame, others with awe. The reckoning had begun, and no one, not Rebecca, not Captain Turner, not even the passengers who cheered, would leave unchanged. The fallout from Flight 847 was swift and merciless. Within hours of David Carter's declaration, the story had eclipsed entertainment gossip, political chatter, and even sports updates. It wasn't just a viral clip anymore. It was the headline of the nation. The Public Awakens clips of Rebecca Hayes slapping Monica Carter flooded every platform. The sound of the slap, sharp and undeniable, was replayed in loops on Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. News anchors replayed it during primetime broadcasts. The contrast between Monica's calm dignity and Rebecca's smug aggression became the symbol of something larger: how prejudice, cloaked in authority, destroys trust. By the next morning, hashtags trended globally. Flight 847. CO wife. Airline accountability. Airline passengers everywhere began to share their own stories, times they had been treated unfairly, dismissed, or humiliated. For too long, those stories had been whispers. Now, they were a roar. Careers destroyed. Rebecca Hayes' fall was brutal. By dawn, she had been formally charged with federal assault, child endangerment, and violation of aviation safety law. Her mugshot appeared on national news. Her once pristine uniform traded for an orange jumpsuit. Her 8-year career had ended in disgrace. Captain Michael Turner fared no better. Investigators uncovered a history of buried complaints under his command. His license was revoked. He would never fly again. Once respected, he became a cautionary tale whispered in aviation schools. Authority without accountability is corruption. Systemic reform. David Carter stood before Congress 3 weeks later. With Monica seated beside him and baby Ella on her lap, he testified about Flight 847. His words were clear. Dignity should not depend on wealth, power, or skin color. My wife should not have needed my title to be treated with respect. From today forward, Aerolink will guarantee that no family ever feels what Monica felt that night. Legislation followed. The Passenger Bill of Rights Act, modeled after Aerolink's new family protection protocol, passed with bipartisan support. It mandated bias training for all crew, independent review of discrimination complaints, and permanent recording of all cabin interactions. Within 6 months, every major US airline adopted similar protections. Bakasura. Cultural shift. Airports changed. Families with young children were greeted with assistance, not scorn. The phrase, "people like you," disappeared from airline vocabulary. Crew training emphasized de-escalation and empathy, not dominance. International carriers followed. Within 2 years, 17 countries had adopted passenger dignity standards inspired by the Carter reforms. Aviation schools taught the Flight 847 case as the moment when commercial flight culture shifted from crew authority to passenger dignity. So, personal legacy. Monica never sought fame, but she could not escape it. Civil rights groups honored her with awards for courage. The NAACP presented her with a Medal for Dignity Under Fire. When she spoke at the ceremony, her words were simple. Power is not in the slap. Power is in refusing to strike back, in holding your ground so the truth reveals itself. Ella, the baby at the center of the storm, grew up with strangers recognizing her in airports. Flight crews competed to provide the family with exceptional service, not out of fear, but out of respect. To them, Ella represented the beginning of a new era. Chloe Anderson, the college student who had live-streamed the ordeal, transformed her accidental viral fame into a career. She produced a documentary titled 35,000 Feet, Discrimination in the Sky. It won multiple awards, becoming required viewing in aviation and law schools alike. Closing the circle. 2 years after the incident, Monica returned to the very aircraft where it had happened. Now Aerolink's flagship of reform, retrofitted with bias detection technology and cameras in every cabin. She boarded with Ella, now a toddler, walking confidently beside her. Passengers and crew alike watched her with reverence, whispers rippling. That's her. That's the woman who changed everything. As she fastened Ella's seatbelt, a young flight attendant approached, nervous but earnest. "Mrs. Carter, I just want to thank you. Because of you, my training was different. Because of you, I know better." Monica smiled, brushing a curl from Ella's forehead. Then it was worth it. The engines roared to life, but this time the hum carried no tension. It carried change, legacy, and the echo of a single truth. Quiet dignity can shake the world louder than any slap.